And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Insert More Coins. Today, I have the pleasure of having the author of the Binding Tenets trilogy that just got finished with Bloodwoven, Bloodbound, and now Bloodless, the one and only GJ Terrell. What is
Hey,
going on, my
Rowdy.
friend? How are
Not a
you
lot.
doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It was a long day at work, and like we were talking about just a little bit before stream, I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up in the next like 2 weeks. So every work day just feels longer and longer and longer, but it'll be okay. We'll
Yeah.
survive.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're about like me. This week has been the it's not been a hard week far as driving. It's been I can't get out on time where I'm at
Mm,
all. Like my I left super late Monday going up the up to Maryland,
hmm.
and I was supposed to leave. Like you have a cut time where I'm at. You're supposed to leave at 9. My
Yeah.
computer wouldn't work, and it took me 45 minutes for me to finally get it figured out.
Oh no.
So, and then
Yeah.
that puts me behind up there, and then it puts me behind getting back, and then it's just been something. So, hopefully it'll get better.
I feel like there's always something, is
Yeah.
that, and that's just the way life is, right? Of course, but especially with
Yep.
work. Hey, Vivian.
What's going on, Vivian?
But yeah, always something, right?
Yeah. It takes me like multiple days to catch up too. Like that's the thing with like what my job is like if you're not caught up in the beginning, then it just gets pushed further and further down the week. So
Yeah,
what's up, Scott?
that's that's how. So I'm still with the same company I was with 8 years ago, but I used to work in the warehouse, right? So I started
I've
out
done
in the
that before.
warehouse with them, and so what we're palletizing and stuff. If you don't finish it the day of, it doesn't go away. You still have to do
Exactly.
it the next day and the next day. And,
Yeah.
kicking the can down the road just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm in sales. And if I don't finish something today, I still need to address it and get to it and stuff. But it's less pressing and less immediate. So I'm fortunate that way. But yeah, the work never goes away.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess we can start this interview off with uh,
exactly.
okay, so we'll talk about your books. How do you want to proceed to this? Do you want to talk about book 3, or do you want to start with 1 and just kind of give us the giant overview?
I I hate talking about my books. I love writing. I don't like the extra stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's necessary stuff. We can whatever you want to do, however you want to go about it. Do you want to hear my thoughts on book 1 through 3,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
then
that'll work. That's good.
okay? So um I've talked about differently. Like, so Bloodwoven had a few different iterations before it got to what it's become today, right? Or what it became last year when I released it. And so it initially started as more of a classical like farm boy trope, where Lynn was, a young boy who didn't really know, much about the wider world. And to keep it kind of concise, after some helpful feedback, I decided, you know what, there's not enough stakes, tension, conflict. And so I was like, how about instead of making Lynn a character that doesn't know anything, he does know about the magic, but he also knows that it's not good, in the sense of there needs to be some counterbalances to keep people from hurting themselves, hurting others, so on and so forth. And so that's how this iteration of Bloodwoven came to be. I aged him up. I put him with the Ferucium, and immediately that resonated more as like a story. And I think that comes from experience with storytelling, because this series wasn't my first project by any means. My first project was inspired by a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and
Okay.
I trunked that. I put that. I haven't looked at that thing in a while because it was rough. It was really bad,
Yeah.
but it allowed me to sort of experience biting into something and working on something and trying to tell a story. And then the next thing I worked on was this huge multi-POV epic fantasy where, you know, it 200,000 words, right? And I cut my teeth on that a little bit, and I shared it with my stepmom, and she was like, "Sweetie, I love you. This thing has really good bones, but not a story does it make." You know, I was like, "Oh crap." So, you know, I set that to the side and I kept working on that. And all the while I was working on, you know, other things and practicing. And so ultimately that's how Bloodwoven came to be, where I decided to hone in on a single POV, see if I can tell a pretty straightforward story. And I've seen people say that a lot, where Bloodwoven, its plot isn't crazy. You don't have a lot of different sides coming in. You don't have a lot of different angles that the plot hits you from. You just have a character who is going through something. And it's a staggering amount to go through because he's so conflicted on what's right, what's wrong. And luckily I was able to do that without him sounding too like whiny or too depressed or anything like that. Because I've, you know, a few of my first reviews were like, I was really worried about how this was going to go because a lot of characters who are sort of in Lynn's position, they just get mopey and they just get whiny. And thankfully, you know, Lynn never quite gets to that low. You know, he hits a few. I think the lowest he got was like one contemplation of like spoilers, like self-harm, right? Because of how deeply entrenched in the faith he was at the time. Because it would be better to just go ahead and die than to break these sort of vows that he made to himself and to others. And he perseveres, you know, he sees the other side of that cliff. And that's, yeah, I'm rambling. I ramble. I'm sorry.
No, talk. You're good.
But that's where I think Bloodwoven really ended up shining, was by having that sort of tight character focus, because it was really easy for me to get into Lynn's head, right? I was law enforcement for a little while, about 3 to 4 years, give or take. Okay. And while I never had a sort of falling out the way that Lynn does, there were certainly some, you know, I certainly saw some things a little bit clearer after being in that system, right? In that role, in that, having that profession. And so it was a little bit easier to get into his headspace. But yeah, I love Lynn as a character. And so seeing his growth through book 2 and then ultimately his like final version, more or less, in book 3, it was really cool to experience being able to write that, because I think ultimately Lynn is a really good guy. He's sort of an individual that I think most people could probably aspire to be. You know, he's not a hero who just wins every battle. You know, he's not a hero that things work out for him, but he's very good at adapting and empathizing, right? And I think that's what makes him, to me, such an interesting character, because he's really put through the ringer. I've had people ask me, like, do you hate your characters? And I'm like, no, I love them. You know, Lynn is always going to be a part of me because of how much time I spent with him, you know. And while the trilogy is done and the story is over, I've dabbled with the idea of like returning to the world, you know, down the line, because in book 1, there's not as much in it, because I sort of set it up to be a standalone, because I was traditionally querying it for a while. I say for a while, I think I queried it for maybe 6 months. And I got a full request on it, which was exciting at the time. But while I got that full request, I was engaging in conversation with my wife about taking it independent and going indie and doing it myself, because I knew that I could crank these out, because I know what my sort of free time is like. The full request ended up getting declined. They said it wasn't unique enough in the current landscape of fantasy, which totally fine. I think that was okay, because by that point I had already decided, you know what, I'm going to do this indie. I was already in talks with my cover artist, who has done the covers for all 3 of the books. And I found her originally when I self-published my short story collection, because she did the same. She did the art, the same artist. Awesome looking. I absolutely love this. It was a
Yeah.
brief off of one of the stories in there, right? Because that's what I like to do for my covers if I can. I like to pull a scene from the book to use as the cover where and if possible. And so that was just a scene that like stuck with me, a character profile, and she was able to do that. So yeah, but that's where sort of Bloodwoven came from, and the journey. A lot. It's kind of hard to talk about book 2 and 3 without getting into spoilers. But Lynn, every step of the way, I think it's fair to say that the world expands. Like from book 1 to book 2, you see more of the world, and you get to see more of the magic, and you get to see a little bit more of Lynn, right? As interpersonal or introspective as book 1 was, book 2 kind of widens the scope and lets you see more of how he interacts with others and more of his feelings as everything progresses. And then book 3 is just really a no holds bar slaughter fest, because
that sounds
at
awesome.
that point, shit hits the, I don't know if I can, I'm sorry for swearing, but shit hits the fan in book 3, because everything that happened in book 1 essentially has consequences, and you see those consequences meet actions by book 3. Is it a perfect story and a perfect loop? I really wish I could say that it was, but I know it's not. You know, it was still me cutting my teeth and learning. But I think I think looking back 10 years from now, I'm gonna be really proud of this trilogy. And the people who get to the end of it are going to be like, this guy ruined fantasy. Like he ruined not fantasy in the way that you won't enjoy anything ever again, but like this, you know, the ending, I think the ending is going to be really divisive is probably the best way to put it. And so of the two people that I know that have finished it, Jeanette and Andres, they both loved it, but I think there are going to be readers who it just doesn't vibe with, and that's okay. And I understood that going in. So okay.
No, you're good. I read book 1. I'm trying to remember. Was it November?
February? March?
No, it was a while ago. It was last year. Yeah. And I remember really enjoying it because my favorite scene is probably one of the first scenes in the whole book. It's not going to be a spoiler because it's the beginning of the book, but you know what leads to the path. But him going, you know, they get to this one town. You know, he's taking the lady and the guy, and she's pregnant, and you know it's like a secret little taking them to this one place, and then she gets murdered basically. You know, right in the beginning, you're like, and then he walks through the door. And then this woman's like, he did it. And she's like, and then he's like, no, she did. I'm going to kill her. Like I loved it. Like that scene was awesome to me. And then it basically is, I guess I took it more as like just a chase through to get to wherever they're going to try to get to him. At the same time, he is trying to figure out if this woman's lying or not the whole time, you know, and he is I felt like straight and narrow, you know, this is the way it is. There's no other way around it. And then she's like, no, you need to listen to me. I'm telling you the way it is. So I really liked book 1. I was supposed to read book 2 in April. And then, you know, everything went to crap in April for me.
Hey, I completely understand. So the way I view like TBRs and reviewers, and I've said this from the beginning because I mean it, like from the bottom of my heart. Before I was a writer, I was a reader. You know, like I didn't come out the womb writing. I didn't come out the womb reading either, but an honest effort was made. You know, and so TBRs. Books, people who say they're going to get to it when you get to it. I've sent so many copies of these books out, and I think I'd rather have a reader get to it when they're ready for it at the right time and the right place for them versus like sitting here and stressing like, oh, are they going to read it? Because I've got books that I want to read that I don't get to, and I know how badly I want to read them, you know? And so that just empathy, right? Like I can understand, especially you guys, you know, in the booktube space and the reading community, there are so many books coming out. There's no way you could get to them all. There's
Yeah.
literally no way. And so for the writers, who feel entitled and who get upset that like, oh, they're not, tough luck, but
Yeah.
it's sort of the way that it is, unfortunately. And complaining about it's not going to change anything. And even if they do read it because you complain about it, that's a pity read. I don't want anyone to read my books out of pity.
Yeah.
I'd rather them read it because they're interested. So it's a weird space to be in,
Yeah.
So no problem. The fact that, I was supposed to read in April, dude, when you get to it, hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the direction,
it is. Let me read this real quick. So
sure.
Jacob is looking to get these signed trilogy box.
Yes.
And so
Rowdy's on BookTube news to me.
BookTube,
not Book Talk.
That's right. I'm not a tiki talker.
Yeah, I've got and I'm so dang proud of this. Sorry for standing up and
no, you're good.
I guess what Jacob's referring to is
that is so sick looking.
I was able to and I wish I could take credit for this. I did design the box, I guess technically, but it's the cover art of, once again, my amazing cover artist for this series, Christina Leone. She's an Italian artist. Absolutely phenomenal. I just can't hype her enough because I think she's really stinking amazing. But every trilogy, on my website, I sell the books direct from me. Obviously they're available on Amazon and stuff, and book one's available on Audible, but anything direct from me comes in that super spiffy box. And it also gets, some of these really neat foiled art cards.
That's awesome.
This one is my favorite just because of the way she incorporated the two characters. But top is teal, and then bottom, you saw her briefly in book one. Her name's Denny. She plays a much a larger role in book two. Okay. And then I would say she's kind of pivotal to Lynn's arc by book three. But it's, I don't know, the artist killed it, absolutely killed it.
Yeah. Vivian, so my brain is literally exploding from alphas, betas, and arcs. Yes. I'm kind of the same way. I am by no means big at all on BookTube or anything. I've got like 350 something subscribers or whatever. But I'm to the point now. But I'm to the point now where people are actually like emailing me, asking me, do you want to read this, or
that's
DMing
cool.
me and stuff. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is, and now I'm to the point where I'm like, look, I will be glad to do this, but I can't tell you when I'm going to get to it. It's like I have no idea. I've even separated all my stuff, which you can't even see. I'll show it. All these right here are what people have sent me that I've not read yet. I'm lucky enough that they've sent them to me, and the other stuff I've bought, but it makes me feel bad because I'm not, right on them at the right time, as soon as they get there. But it's like, I'll never get to read anything else if I just read, just the arcs that are coming in and stuff like that.
You still need to read for enjoyment. Is my personal take. That's why I don't think I could ever do it in that sense, where it's just the commitment. Again, that goes back to what I was saying. I love reading. I usually have an ebook, an audiobook, and a physical on deck, right? Like at
that's
any
what
given
I'm doing
point.
right now.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
And it just doesn't. It's not. That's not enough. I couldn't do the sort of content, and that's why I said I have a lot of respect for you guys. Pete, I was on Realm Runners on Tuesday with Pete of Pete Reviews or Reads Books Good, right? Is his tag. And he had to start turning down requests just because you get inundated with them, like way too many. It overflows.
Could you imagine like the guys that have got like 50,000 subs or like Mike that's got 100 or 130 something thousand? I couldn't imagine the request he gets.
If even 10% of your audience is indie authors, right? At that point, then you're getting 1,000 requests. I'm terrible at math, so if it's wrong, I'm sorry. 1,000 requests, you know,
Yeah,
it's
at least a
and
year probably. You know,
yeah,
and he's to the
if
point
not
now
more.
where yeah,
Yeah,
he's to the point now where I know I've heard him say it on some of his videos. He's like, I can't read all these. He said, if you send them to me, I will be more than happy to show them, which is good enough for most people when you're that big to show them to all these people. When he's got 130,000 subs, I mean,
yeah.
yeah. All right, what do we got here? First cough doing it. Yes, I'm trying, Scott. You know, I'm trying. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. But I'll still, yep, got to enjoy. I'm the same way. Yeah, you feel bad for having to do that. It's because I mean, people are asking you to do something, and you don't want
Yeah.
to let them down, but at the same time, you're like, well, if I do that, then that just pushes other stuff back, and it's
Right.
just a big
Just kicking the
cycle.
can like we said. It's a different kind
Yeah,
of can, but you're still kicking it, right? Like
yeah,
that's the problem. So,
yeah.
but like I said, I think, you're doing a great job. So,
Well, thank you.
it's my concern with, and I don't mind saying like the friends, right? The friends I've made in the community is I'd hate to see someone get burnt out is like the last thing, because you have to, if you're not enjoying it while you do it, then it just sucks the fun out of it. And so like with me, I try to aim for like 1,000 words a day that I write, but I do it on my lunch break for the most part. And that's how I enjoy taking my lunch. Like I'll eat and then I'll get to that. And that's my zen. Right. And so, I don't think I'm in danger of burning out from writing anytime soon, but I could see it happening. And I know it happens to others. And it's like, dude, if you're not enjoying it, just take a break. Watch videos instead. Do something that you can do, because you have to refill that gas tank, and if you're not refilling it, you can't just run on fumes. So,
yeah.
Alex.
What's up, Alex? Going on? Oh, Jacob's getting the box set.
Very cool. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Good man. Yeah. All right. So, what would you say is your inspiration in writing your books? Like what got
Oh,
you?
that's tough. So, as an author, you have to sort of write that cheesy blurb for Amazon about like what inspired you. And really, from a young age, I've always enjoyed writing, like in class and stuff. And which is really funny because I actually, little known fact, and I've said it in a few different places, I was in ESL classes as a kid, which is, for those who don't know, English is a second language class. And I'm very, very much a white individual, but I struggled to speak. I had some sort of learning disability that kept me from being able to read and comprehend what I was reading, and then to also speak about what I would like, just interact with the world. There was something going on, and I'm not sure what the actual end result ended up being, but I got a teacher who was able to kind of see my issues, interpret them, and then fix it, resolve the issue. And that was amazing, because it was a big problem. Like only my sister understood me when I spoke. I distinctly remember part of the problem was I didn't understand what spaces were, in the sense of, you have words and then you have spaces and then you have more words. And I just couldn't, for some reason that caused an issue. Right. And so after that sort of got resolved, which wasn't until I was we moved in 97. I was born in 91. So I would have been 6. So I don't think that got resolved until I was at least like 7 or 8. Right. And after that, I was reading everything I could get my hands on. And maybe that was because I couldn't do it before, so I felt deprived, but I just loved it. And my eyesight quickly started deteriorating, so I had to get glasses. And then I was still just reading the whole time. And so I've always had a love for reading, especially a love for fantasy. I don't care if it's a movie, a show, a book, fantasy-themed music, the Renaissance Festival, with its stuff. I just absolutely adore fantasy. I like sci-fi well enough. And, but so from an early age, I was hooked, and we're talking about Aragon, Harry Potter. There were so many others, like the Seventh Son thing. I don't remember the title of the book. Terry Brooks, The Sword of Shannara, and all of that stuff. The Elfstones of Shannara ruined me as a middle schooler reading, because I think in the first chapter or two, there's the betrayal of the king because his dog was actually a changeling, and that blew my mind as a kid, right? Because it was like, oh my goodness. And so just all sorts of fantasy have inspired me. Specifically for Bloodwoven, there's I like Brandon Sanderson, right? He's hard to talk about fantasy in this current generation and day and age without having Sanderson referenced, right? And so Bloodwoven, it's a lot more subtle than the way they do it in like Mistborn, but it's the way that the magic works is through the blood, right? And so without going into too many spoilers or details, it's Mistborn and stuff like that helped inspire Bloodwoven. And the reason it's not talked about too much in the book is because the characters don't really know about it. But that's sort of an inspiration for it. In Attack on Titan, the way the island is sort of isolated from the rest of the world, which is Attack on Titan's an anime, for those that don't know. So that helped inspire it. I haven't read any Guy Gavriel K, but I've heard very good things about him as an author. So I do plan to.
One of the biggest ones I've heard from him, I've not read it, neither any of his, but
the like, Pinavar Tapestry, the Lines of
Alverson. Lines of Alverson. And there's like one or two others that are really popular.
Yeah. I mean, there's a list of authors that I haven't read yet that I want to get to. I read the first book of Robin Hobb's.
Me too. I read it last
Farseer? Not Farseer.
No, Assassin's Apprentice.
Assassin's Apprentice. Yeah.
That's the Farseer trilogy. Yeah, I read one last month. That April. That's the only thing I got done, basically.
I liked it pretty well.
Loved it. I audiobooked it, and it is so good. And I'm not a big...
I think it might have been overhyped for me because I did think it was very good, but I was expecting like top tier, like it's going to change my life fantasy. And it was very good. Like it was very, very, very good. But it didn't change my life the way others were telling me that it probably would, right?
I'll agree. I'll say she's got some of the best prose, if not the best prose I've ever read. Like everything. I think I'd said that on one video. It's like it's so whimsical the way she like just describes stuff. And I'm not a big prose person. I like prose; they're cool. But I'm a character and action. Like I want action. That's what I like.
That makes sense,
and that gets me going. There's not much action in book one. I mean, there's some, but not much. But I don't know. And I just got mesmerized by
some of the action in there is very good too, to be fair. But yes, you're right. It's a lot of, it felt like a lot of setup, which is completely fair for a trilogy. You know, it's a trilogy, but it's really a world spanning, you know, I think it's like 3 or 4 trilogies, right?
It's 16 books. I think it's 3 trilogies and 1 I guess it's a quartet. So
quartet. Yeah. So, okay.
Or maybe it's 4 trilogies and something like that. It's 3 or 4. And then a quartet.
It's on my list to get through more of it, but it's like Malazan or Malazan or however it's actually pronounced. Yeah. I stopped on book 1.
I've not read any, but I'm dying to.
I liked book 1 pretty well. Like a lot of people are like, oh, the magic system bounced off. It's, you know, a lot of different plot threads, confusing. I wasn't ever confused because I think they do a pretty good job of like rooting you in the character. And is the character thrown to the wolves essentially? Yes. But if you're looking at it through the character's eyes and you're confident that the character knows what's going on, that's what did it for me. Right. And so I was able to stick with it, but that was when I was tasting different authors and deciding like, where do I go next? Cause I had a hiatus of probably almost 10 years where I wasn't reading just because life didn't really, give me the opportunity to, right. I wasn't making the time and stuff like that. And so I didn't discover, you know, Joe Abercrombie, Brandon Sanderson until like 2018, 2019, after they were well established. And, you know, then when I started listening to them, I was like, oh, this is a fantasy now. This is great, you know? And before that, it was, you know, George R. R. Martin and stuff like that. But
last year I went and read every Cosmere book. I think that was I think I read 22 or 23 of them. I was doing 2 a month. And
that's a lot of books. Yeah.
That's a long journey, especially in a year. really, when you get Stormlight Archive stuff, it is, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
1,000+ page books. It's awful.
Did you end up reading the like 4 that he put out last year, the secret novellas or secret novels?
Yeah, I got them all. Everything is read. I'm up to date on everything on it. So yeah,
I was a sucker for I hadn't bought like a special edition before, but when he released those special editions for the Kickstarter,
they are beautiful.
I backed it, and so I've got them. I've got all the stuff that comes with it, and it's currently my only special editions. But I'm like, this thing, I think one of my favorite ones was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Yeah, it's the best looking.
It's so good, and it follows. Go ahead.
I was going to say, even the standard version, it's the best looking one of them.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful cover, and then it just reminded me so much of, because I'm a big anime fan,
and that's perfect for you then.
It was great because it played with a lot of those familiar tropes while also taking Sanderson's unique twist on things, and it was I felt like, as a fan of the genre, super well done. So very much enjoyed my time with it.
Yeah. So Vivian read the
Read the Mad Ships. Read the Mad Ships. Yeah,
read Mad Ships.
I've heard great things about that.
They're excuse me. Those are they're thick books too. Though I think that series is like quite a bit bigger than the Farseer trilogy.
Okay.
Or size wise, I'm pretty sure. Oh, let's see. Jacob said, I have the Farseer trilogy on my TBR. Or great thing. Yes. It's a book one, I'll say. Yeah, Assassin's Apprentice was awesome. Like, I'm gonna start book 2 as soon as my TBR allows me to. I'm about to do something different with my TBR. I showed Josh from Already Overbooked 2 nights ago. I'll tease a little. It makes me feel better.
Dice roll? I feel like it's a dice roll.
Not a dice roll. Not a dice roll. But I'll tease a little. Right there.
Oh, wheel. Okay. I like it. I wheel recognize wheel, right?
That's right. That's right. So now I don't feel bad. If I don't get to someone's book, I'm like, hey, it's not meant to be. When it's meant to be, it'll be done.
Hey, Nick,
oh, Lord.
I've got to keep standing up because who needs to be in front of camera? I've got a wheel, but it's for when I do in-person book fairs, because I have like prizes and stuff. And my favorite prize on there, and one that doesn't survive often when we get back from the book fairs, if there's any left, is bookworms, because they're really just bags of gummy worms. And so if I have any of those left in the office, I end up snacking way more than I need to. But I'm a sweet tooth kind of guy. I can't help myself. So
you see who this guy is right here. What is he even thinking showing up?
Who does he think he is? He writes one book and then he doesn't put out anymore, despite us. I've been pestering him for a while.
Oh yeah, he's been teasing like a whole trilogy or 4 books for like 2 years now.
Hey, I'm in a chat with him. I can tell you he's not working on nothing. Okay.
All he's doing is taking selfies in cars. We know. Or hospital beds.
He's had a lot of work lately. He's been slammed, but can't go anywhere. True. True.
Right. That's right. All right. So what author or authors influenced your writing, do you think?
Man, that's really tough. I deeply respect Joe Abercrombie's take on prose. He had an interview that definitely made the rounds where he was talking about how his mother talked to him about prose one time, and she was like, "Hey, I want to do it justice," but he essentially had this like verbose sort of line about the night sky and on a velvet cloth that looked like diamonds were strewn across it, which sounds pretty enough. And his mom was like, "Joe, does the night sky really look like that?" And he was like, "Well, no, I guess not. No." And she was like, "Right. We have to be realistic about these things, right?" Something along those lines, which is a famous line of his. And it's like, oh, so when you're making these metaphors and these analogies, you want to be as truthful as you can about them, right? You don't just make a metaphor to make a metaphor. A metaphor has to have a little bit of purpose, or what's the point in doing it? Because comparing falsities, there's no reason to compare them. It's not true in the first place. And so I've tried to take that concept and do my best with it. And it's a struggle to, because I don't think I'm anywhere near at, Abercrombie's level of competency when it comes to handling words. But I really do enjoy that. And then Sanderson, his magic system mentality, I'm a big fan of that. I think there should be cause and effect. And I think even if you as the author understands what the cause and effect is, it's okay if the reader doesn't, as long as everything follows by that same rule set, right? So if the reader doesn't know essentially that the magic comes from the blood, like in the Binding Tenets trilogy, but they understand that there are some rules and that the characters don't exceed those rules, and it's discussed, that's fine, as long as it has to sort of follow those rules. That's not to say that there can't be more whimsical magic, because I'm a big fan of the whimsical kind too, where it's like things happen and it's mysterious, and that's good as long as it's not a detriment to the story and the arc and the tension, right? Because as soon as you start getting rid of tension, what's sort of the point of the story if there's not a little bit of driving tension, right? So I would say Abercrombie for sure was an influence on the prose, Sanderson an influence on my magic. There's just everything that I've consumed, reading, watching influences me. I talked about it the other day where I watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners, right?
Loved that.
And that helped inform a little bit of Bloodwoven because of body modifications and the repercussions of doing such a thing. Where, Lynn is told untethered are dangerous, right? He knows this to be truth. He has fought them before. Then he finds Teal, who is essentially, by his definition and the Ferusium's definition, untethered. He knows that to be true. She seems okay. She tells him, hey, doing these things still has consequences.
Yeah.
He finds out some of those consequences in book 1, where he's weak because his body hasn't recovered, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Edge Runners, as odd as it sounds to say that a sci-fi cyberpunk body modification story helped influence this very darkish, gritty fantasy novel, it absolutely did, because I do think, like I said earlier, cause and effect is like a thing that should play a part in a story. So
not bad.
Influences. Yeah.
How many Abercrombie's books have you read?
So I read the original trilogy, or not the First Law trilogy.
Yeah.
And then I read all of Age of Madness. I haven't done any of the short standalones.
They're not short. I don't know if no, they're just as big, if not. I actually have them all. They're just as big, if not bigger, than the original trilogy.
I haven't done the standalones, and I know that they're very good. Yes, they're very good.
I've only read the Blade itself. That's all I've read. But I'm ready to keep going.
It's so good, and the arcs that the characters go through. I would, I've talked about this with ZB Steele a bit in chat. We've all talked about Abercrombie, just because he's so, I think him and Anna Smith Spark are like ZB's favorite authors.
I was going to say, they're his goats, I'm pretty sure.
But so we've talked about Abercrombie a bunch, and Age of Madness is definitely better than the First Law, but the First Law just has like a place in my heart as far as trilogies go, because it was so freaking good. And then I'm listening to The Devils currently, and I'm not even halfway through yet, but I'm really enjoying that because it's so sort of irreverent, while not like it's not a one for one of our world. It's obviously like a little bit different. And just the characters and stuff are so well done, in my opinion, because, say what you want about Joe Abercrombie, say that he knows how to write unique, interesting characters.
Absolutely. Glockta is my favorite. As far as
it's so good. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you listen to the audio at all. The guy
Yes.
that does,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, with the
Yeah.
lisp and everything,
Yeah.
it is
Stephen,
so
I think
good.
it's Stephen Pacey
Stephen Pacey, yeah.
for, yeah. So he's also did The Devils, right? And so the characters all have just so much personality to them.
Yeah.
So Bloodwoven's audiobook came out and
Okay.
in April, and I heard my narrator, really loved him. And then in the beginning of this month, there was a book, a buddy read for Bloodwoven, which was really awesome. A
Okay, that's
few,
cool.
maybe like 5 or 6 people were involved. 3 ended up DNFing, which is completely fine. And the other 3 finished, but they all, yeah, I think most of them did audiobook, and they're like, oh man. I think one of the comments was, it sort of sounds like if David Attenborough, I'm probably butchering his last name, did an audiobook where he's got a very pleasant voice, but it puts me to sleep. And I'm like, no, that's like the worst thing. When you have like a pretty action heavy, or at least like sprinkled with a good amount of action, fantasy story, you don't want to be putting people to sleep. But I wouldn't change the narrator because I love him. But my whole loop, and to draw back to Abercrombie, is that like if I could have gotten Stephen Pacey, I would have, because I do love the way he does characters. So even with Lynn being a single POV story, the other characters speaking, and I think there would have been a lot of fun. But my guy does a great job too. Personally, it's just that was some of their comments, and I was like, oh man, you got to keep the reader, even when they're listening, you got to keep them engaged. So
yeah. All right. So what's your like process of writing? Like, how do you go about doing it?
I was just making fun of myself in the Will Wraith press chat, because what I used to do was, I'd get my candles, whatever candle I had at the moment, and I'd set it down and I'd light my candle, and then whether I was drinking whiskey or coffee or whatever I had at hand, I'd make my cup, and then I'd sit at my very comfortable desk, right? And I'm super spoiled because I have 2 desks. I have my writing desk, and then right beside me, I have my video game desk, because if I have both at the same desk, I'll play video games. But mentally, if I have a chair that I can put, move and situate differently, I'll actually sit down and write when I'm supposed to, versus turning on the video game consoles. And so my process is very, very spoiled, because I saw a tweet, or like an image that Robin Hobb put out, where she had, was basically a single mom at the time. She had a husband, but he's working, driving long hours. He was hardly at home. So she had her kid, and she would sit at the kitchen table, hunched over, writing in between snack breaks, and, all sorts of things that she had to do. And I know a lot of writers have a lot of things that they have to do when they write. And the people who are able to do that, while raising a family, while doing X, Y, and Z, I'm so envious of that, because I'm very fortunate in this situation to be spoiled and to be able to have a little routine. So I don't light candles anymore, not because of all that, but just because I haven't been, I write at work for an hour, and that sort of broke me of that, because I have my hour-long lunch break. So I'll sit at my desk and I'll write. And if someone interrupts me, I add it to my clock. I'm like, oh, well, I was interrupted on my lunch break, so it doesn't really count, right? So you took 5 minutes of my time, I'll add 5 minutes, and I'll go and write longer. And then when I get home, I'll write some when I get home, because my wife, she runs her own business. She's a hairstylist. And so a lot of times her hours are whatever she has to book for that day. So I've got free time when I get home if I'm not making dinner, things like that. So it just, my process is about as straightforward as you might think. I sit down, I put music on, whether it be my favorite band is Silverstein. I don't really listen to them when I write, though. I used to put on like lo-fi, just like lyricless music, and then I started listening to like heavier stuff while I write. And now just whatever I feel like putting on, I put on. If I'm writing a female POV, I usually put on like Adele or Billie Eilish or something, like a female artist, just to sort of try and channel that a little bit more. Does it help? I don't think so. It's all mental, but that's my process. It's silly, but it's where I'm at. So
There's, excuse me, I've noticed there's a bunch of people that listen to music while they write. I obviously I don't write books or anything, but far as reading, I need it
mhm.
like dead quiet.
Oh
I cannot concentrate on anything. I don't know how y'all write books,
yeah,
with all the music.
I don't know if I've heard of In This Moment. It sounds vaguely familiar, so I'll probably have to look it up
Hmm.
just to see because I like finding new music. Uh, no, when I'm reading, it needs to be as quiet as possible. So I'll
Yeah.
read in bed while my wife is watching TV sometimes, and that's fine. But if I cannot listen to like music and read. It's just a different, that seems kind of weird, right? Because if I'm able to sit here and write and listen to music,
Yeah.
you would think I'd be able to read because that's basically writing, but a step removed. But when I
Yeah.
start writing, I just enter this sort of like state of consciousness where I'm not really. It sounds weird. I know that I'm thinking about what I'm writing, but it doesn't feel like I'm thinking about it. And I'm really fortunate in this. I think I have heard of In This Moment before because she's that band has done some music with. There's another band that I've listened to. I can't remember, but yeah. Anyways, sorry, tangent.
Yeah. No.
Um, but yeah, it's you would think that you'd be able to do, if you can do one, you can do the other. But writing and reading are two very different things.
Yes.
And it's the comprehension, right? Reading comprehension is huge. And I think that's why we have multiple drafts, right? Because I'll write something, and I don't know if Alex is still in the chat, but he just recently, Alpha read something for me, and it's like you've got as an author, as a writer, you put something out and you're like, oh, this makes sense. And then, someone else will come through and be like, this don't make no sense, no lick of sense. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, right, because I've got all this information up here about this story, and I'm only putting some of it out there. And when you're only putting some of it out there, the picture is way less clear, right? And so it's like, oh, you need to add more to this scene to make it make sense, right? And that's typically where I'm at. Yeah, cracks. There was cracks in my writing. No, that's my up and coming project. I say up and coming. It'll probably be early next year because of the cover artist and when I'm on their schedule. Cracks of the Deepest Black. It's a multi POV Final Fantasy inspired sort of project that I absolutely love it. It's different from Bloodwoven, like different enough that I think people will like it for different reasons, right? It's not, it doesn't nearly go as interpersonal or as introspective as Bloodwoven did, but Alex is making me fix that a little bit because the characters, they're needing more development. So I'm working on fixing that. But I'm super excited about that project.
Okay. So are you more of a pantser or a plotter?
So I used to be just a pantser. So the first iteration of Bloodwoven, when he was like the farm boy, was written by the seat of my pants. I think I knocked the first, 8,000 words out in a single day, just sitting there. It was like shortly after my birthday, and I was just like, and it was nuts. And when the day was over, you go back to the scattered remains of prose that could be, because it was very not good. And it's like, oh, this is, I need to do something. So I ended up finishing that without an outline. And then I edited it without an outline. I was feeling pretty good about it. And mind you, this was probably 2019, 2020 when I was doing this. And I gave it to this group that I was in, this writing group. And Eddie read it and was like, he's like, you didn't have an outline, did you? And I was like, oh, what makes you, I'm like sweating. I'm like, what made you say that? He's like, I can tell. And I was like, yeah, I didn't have an outline. He's like, okay, well, you need to fix some stuff. And so I took his advice. And then I aged up Lynn, did a new draft, had an outline for this new draft. So it was a lot more structured, and it flowed a lot easier. So a lot of people complain about outlines because they're like, oh, but how can you stick to an outline? Because the characters do what the characters want. I'm like, I understand that to an extent. Like, yeah, but ultimately you're in charge of the characters. And when you're in that outlining stage, you can dictate where it goes,
Mhm.
and if you want the characters to do something, so my outlines have like broad points, like things that I would like to see happen in the chapter. And then if like while I'm thinking of that, a bit of what good dialogue or something pops in my head while I'm thinking about that scene, I'll put that on the outline. But my outlines are pretty sparse compared to some, and pretty heavy compared to others, because everybody has their own recipe for making a book work, right? And so yeah, I just do I outline? Yeah. Do I always outline? No, especially like short stories and stuff like that. I don't outline those, because I'm like, oh, 10,000 words or less. Let's just put the story out there. We'll figure out the beats, the pacing, the arcs from that. Some of Cracks wasn't outlined, but I felt pretty confident in doing it without an outline because of my experience in outline.
Yeah.
Because all outlining does is give you a shortcut to the story you're trying to tell. It doesn't take away from work in the future. It doesn't add work in the future, because it's all part of the same project in my mind. It's just giving yourself more of a lattice, right, to grow the vine up on, right, if the vine's the story. So I think for people who struggle to tell a story in a concise way, outlines are probably integral. I think you need that. I think everyone should at least try to write with an outline before they pants, just to see if it might be more conducive to their writing style. Because I didn't know how beneficial an outline was to me as an author until I actually did it. And I was like, okay, I can see why people do this, because my mind is just like ba 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 a bunch of the time, and having that outline helped me just sort of make it more concise, which is not how I talk at all, because I ramble.
That's no big deal.
No, so, you asked me to make sure that I don't let you talk, right? Like that's what you said.
Yeah,
because you're coughing, right? So I'm helping you out.
Yeah. That's right. So or out of all this, I say this trilogy, do you have a favorite character?
Hello, Faceless Book Reviews. Do I have a favorite character? I've got a few. So I do really like Denny, which again, she pops up at the end of book 1. She's a major character in book 2, and huge influence on Lynn in book 3. And I think she's really fun to write, because it's the crazy ones that are really fun to write. Like she's even in book 1, she's very unhinged by intention. And it's always those sort of unhinged characters that are just a blast for me to write. And so I love her to death. I like Eamon. He's so punchable, but I like writing shitty characters. So I've got this guy in Of Stars Below, which is slated for 2027, 2028. I need to clean up the draft.
Okay.
It's already written. It's 200,000 words, but I need to get it ready for publication and really take a hard edit to it before it's like actually ready. But that there's a POV character named Jerome who is just vile, just absolutely the worst, and I love him. But as far as the Binding Tenets trilogy, I like Pale, I like Denro, I like all the characters for different reasons, My wife the other night said that Jerome is sort of like, if you've ever watched Shameless, which was on Netflix, and he's sort of like Mickey Malkovich, where he's just like a piece of shit, but he cares about the people he cares about, right? Like that's sort of who he is. And I was like, you know what, sweetie, that is a fantastic comparison, because I hadn't put that together. And then when she said it, I was like, no, that's.
Have you watched The Righteous Gemstones?
I haven't yet, but I've heard such good things about it.
Oh my! I just started that yesterday.
Yeah,
that show is insane.
In a good way, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is basically, the easiest way to put it is, it's basically a preacher and his 3 kids, and 2 of them are trying to be preachers, and they are this giant mega church. and it literally feels like, I know you say you're in Texas, so is that
Yes.
not where like Osteen is? Joel Osteen. Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's almost like it's like they made a movie, a show about what his life would be like behind the scenes. It
Right.
is absolutely insane, like the stuff they do. And obviously it's got, I mean, it's got oh geez, what's the guy's name? Eastbound and Down, who is, oh my gosh.
I know who you're talking about. The same guy. He was the brother in Step Brothers, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or
No,
no?
no, no,
Yeah.
no. That's not
No,
it.
no.
That's
What? Pineapple Express. No,
maybe.
he was
Who
the
is
one
he?
that got tied to the chair and shot.
Maybe.
I think
I haven't
so.
watched Pineapple Express in so long.
It's been a long.
I
It's
can't.
been a
I
long
cannot
time.
remember. Anyways, it's the wildest
What-
show I possibly have ever seen. It is
What a
absolutely
curveball
insane.
it would have been if you're like, what are your inspirations? And I was like, Cheech and Chong, Pineapple Express, like some of those like more
Yeah.
off kilter films.
Yeah.
No, I've heard
I've seen 'em.
The Righteous Gemstones, Severance. I haven't seen, but I've heard is fantastic. There's a whole bunch that. So my wife and I, when we watch shows, Danny McBride.
Danny McBride.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
that's the guy. So not Step Brothers, Talladega Nights. He was in, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. That's Will Ferrell and
I don't know.
is it John C. Reilly?
Yes,
That's
it's definitely something Riley.
Something Riley. Yeah.
Well, I think it is John C. because I always think like it's sort of a serial killer's name if you like stop and think about it, like John C. Riley,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard. So my wife and I, we have like a way that we watch shows together, and it's at her time, her convenience, right? Because again, she's the one with the crazy hours, and so if there's like a show that we plan to watch together, one, it's got to be completely out. Like if the whole season isn't out, we're not watching it. Because she's not going to do the week by week, and then it's just at her convenience. So there's a lot of good shows that we sort of have this huge buffer on. I think the last best show that we finished was Shogun, which was really good.
I've not watched
obviously
it.
it's very good. I've heard the book's fantastic. The show was really well done. We were told there weren't that many subtitles, and we were absolutely lied to. It's
the whole thing is subtitle, ain't it?
Basically the whole thing. The whole thing. And so I was like, are we watching the wrong version? Because for her, she, again, having her business, she gets clients message her all the time, so she has to deal with it and stuff. And so we were not expecting as many subtitles, but it made sense that there were some, and it was a fantastic show. But always shows that we have to sort of pause and catch up on. But Righteous Gemstones is on our list.
Yeah, it's wild. I'll just say that. And if you've got kids, don't watch it with them.
No, not yet. We're hopefully some good news on that front soon.
Yeah.
But
awesome. Well, maybe so.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite line in any of your books? Like one you wrote that was just like, I'm a genius. This is the greatest thing I've ever wrote.
No, probably not. Even if I did, I think it'd be really hard to find it. There's a few lines where I think I was kind of, as the kids say, cooking with like Teal and her back and forth with Lynn. There are a few of those that I really enjoyed. There has been some stuff in Cracks that on the read back, I'm like, you know what, that's a really good line. And I've typically, if there's something while I'm editing that I find that I'm like, oh, you know what, I think people will enjoy, I share on X, and I'm like, oh, here's a little excerpt. I think this was really good. And interaction being what it is, it's, it never goes anywhere, but I do toss those up from time to time. There was one thing that I did, and sorry, I'm trying to look it up real quick. There was one thing that I did. So a lot of people might not know, but the header or the title of every chapter, it cycles through hope, bone, blood, and hate. Like every chapter cycles through. and typically it has something to do with the chapter sometimes, like not always, but there's a speech in book 3, if I can find it, that the sort of villain gives, and it's a callback to the chapter headers, and I was really proud of that, or the chapter titles, and I was really proud of that because I'm like, you know what, this is awesome to me, but I can't find it to save my life. So
Did I remember you saying this? And maybe I'm lost, but didn't you say someone, I don't know if it was your wife or somebody, come up with a lot of the designs for all the chapter headers?
yeah,
Like the
so
images?
in Bloodwoven, so Bloodwoven has chapter header images, right? And
Yeah.
each image correlates to the chapter. And my wife, yeah, she actually drew
Okay.
all of those, which was painstakingly consuming.
Yeah.
And so I did not continue that trend in the second and third book, but I switched it
Okay.
up for every book. And so for book 2, I used sort of as if there were like little tidbits from the world, like
Okay.
excerpts from documents throughout the world. I did that for book 2 as the headers. And then for book 3, I did quotes from characters in the world. So not just documents, but actual quotes about war from the characters experiencing the potential war. And that was in book 3. But I found the line that I was really happy with.
Okay.
So this is again a callback to every chapter title throughout the whole series, and this is a villain giving it hope. A fragile, frail thing, constantly broken by those in power. Bone, like hope, often broken, all because we're more powerful than they want us to be. Hate, festered and fetid, growing within every Daniken, ready to spew out. Blood, the only thing that will be left of those who oppose us. And so that was like just a little. So this bad guy's giving not a monologue in the sense of he's like, monologuing. He's giving a speech to troops is probably the best way to put it.
Mhm.
And so he's going through, and so that's I guess you could call that like an Easter egg, where like people probably reading it won't realize that it's connecting to the chapter titles in any meaningful way. But that was like an intentional thing that I did that I'm super proud of, because it's like, I did a thing,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very visceral. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Scott said that apparently there is a dubbed version of Shogun.
Yeah, I believe it, but I tried finding it on Hulu and I didn't find it. But this was the guy giving that speech, by the way, because a lot of people have asked if it's Lin, on the cover of book 3, and he's just gone like full rogue. And it was an intentional design choice to have Lin sort of front and center on book 1, front and center, and then sort of mid ground on book 2. He's not in the front. He's looking away. He's actively walking away from the front. And then in book 3, Lin's on the back cover, and the villain is on the front. And so it was an intentional design choice, where sometimes I have this feeling that I've got plans that are larger than I'm capable of seeing through.
Yeah.
But the cover art, the artist nailed everything that I asked her to do, and it was very cool being able to see the story told a little bit throughout the covers, and the spines intentional. This one's a little beat up, but the dark to fading to a lighter one, also intentional. I can't believe I haven't sent it to you yet. I'll send it to you. I got you. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I've got your address, Rowdy.
That's right. You do. Don't tell nobody.
It's 54321.
Exactly.
Just like dox you live on your stream. That'd be awful.
All right. So I already know this answer because you've already said it. But are you working on any other projects right now?
I'm working on. I've got a lot of spinning plates.
Well, it sounds like
it. Yeah. It's all a good thing for people who actually like my writing, right? It's all good news. But so I've got draft 1, which already got alpha feedback, and I'm incorporating that. and then I'm sending it off to some beta readers. But Cracks of the Deepest Black, it's book one of, I'm not sure how many it's going to be. I initially thought it would be a duology, but after talking with Alex, he was like, dude, you cannot finish this in 2 books. And if you do, it won't be good enough, which is completely fair. And I was like, not a duology then. So we're calling it the Crystalium Depths Saga. So that I have a little wiggle room with the actual number of books, because I'm not positive. And book 1 is finished. I'm incorporating alpha feedback, and then sorry, Greg, incorporating alpha feedback, and then getting out to betas, fixing that up, still waiting on the cover artist. So while I'm doing that, I started writing book 2 in that series. I'm 20,000 words in already. Not 20,000, geez. I'm rounding up massively. I'm 15,000 words in. And I'm hoping to have that done by October, so that I can give that to people who are ready to read it, so I can edit it. Just because I'm sort of on a tight time frame. I've got a Studio Ghibli Princess Mononoke meets Demon Slayer inspired standalone that is like 2,000 words in. I absolutely love the opening I have for this. It's very different from what I've written. As far as like the fantasy, it's very different because instead of third-person POV, it's a first-person POV project. But I've playing around with it. It's a lot of fun because I think I do a decent enough job getting into character voice that first person, this voice, even though it's a disembodied person, essentially has a lot of character to it already. And then I have my back burner project, Of Stars Below, which I was talking about with Jerome earlier, and that's fully written, but I need to go through and do a brand new draft to sort of fill in the musculature of it, because it was a lot of bones and tissue and sinew, but without some of the important muscle to help it go along. So I've got a lot of things in the works, and I don't plan to go anywhere anytime soon. So while I sort of speed runned my trilogy, I've got a lot of fantasy projects in the works, because I feel like I have a lot of stories to tell. So
that's awesome. So you definitely will have plenty of work to do for the next several years.
I don't know. I'm trying to finish it in 1, so we'll see. No, not 1 year. No, I think that would be too much for even me.
Yeah.
All
right, so let's shift some gears.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's get to know you a little more. So, what is your favorite food?
That's really hard. So if you ask anyone who knows me, as gross as it is, I love hot dogs. I'm a hot dog.
I'm a hot dog guy too.
I just love them, dude. I can't help it. And then followed behind that, I used to think I really liked Japanese and Chinese, and I still do. But I, within the last maybe 2 years, I discovered I really, really like Vietnamese. Just because of the flavor profiles that they have. And so scrappler spam. Yeah. I really, really love spam.
Look, if you get spam cooked right, it's not bad. Okay.
There's a recipe floating around right now because of the Lilo and Stitch movie upcoming. That's like fried spam or something, or grilled spam. And I'm sure my wife and I might try it, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I've fried spam many a time.
You gotta fry it, right? That's the thing.
You gotta fry. That's the only way. There's no taking it out of the can and eating it. You do that, that's just gross.
That's like, when I was younger, a lot of my diet was like bologna and Vienna sausages. I
can't do Vienna sausages.
I don't think I can anymore. You know what I mean? But I used to fry bologna, slap that baby in a skillet, a little mustard, a little ketchup. Oh, it was like eating a hot dog.
Exactly. Okay, tell me this. Are you a hot dog guy, or are you a bratwurst?
I've had bratwurst. We've gone to German Fest, and I've done that. I'm just give me a bun, a frank, like a beef frank. Give me ketchup, mustard, onions, relish sometimes, right? Like I don't always have to have the relish. I've had Chicago dogs, right, with the sports pepper.
Mm-hmm.
I like those enough.
I don't like onions. Like hot dogs. I hated relish. I like pickles, but
Okay.
my wife and my daughter love relish on a hot dog. So
Okay.
now I'm to the point where it's ketchup, mustard, and relish on my
Yeah.
hot dogs now.
Relish is usually sweeter than just like straight pickles, right?
they
And
are.
I think that's part of the problem. Dirty
it's
water
different.
dog in New York.
Absolutely.
My wife and I have been to New York one time, and we absolutely got hot dogs while we were there, and we absolutely paid for a homeless guy's hot dog because he sort of
rolled
it
up
was a
on
whole
you at
thing.
the time. Yeah,
it was a whole thing. And it's so funny because she might not like me telling this, but she's not here. She got a little too intoxicated and smacked the hot dog out of my hand on accident. And then, she smacked the toppings off the hot dog, like because it sort of did like one of these things.
Yeah.
And then she looked at her now bare hot dog and looked at my perfect hot dog. And she took mine and gave me hers. And as a good husband that I am, I ate the sad hot dog. So I was very upset about it.
That's right.
So I don't let her live that down. I'm like, you remember that time? She's like, of course I do. Yeah.
All right. So do you have a favorite restaurant around you?
Off the top of my head, not really. I mean, there's a bunch of good stuff, obviously. And we like trying new places as often as we can. I can't think of like a favorite, like a restaurant that has really stuck with me. No, not off the top of my head. Sorry, I know that's a boring answer, but
no.
For me, a favorite has to be something that like really impacts me or like I'll go to all the time. And I need to be honest with you, Rowdy. I'm so lazy when it comes to food. If I'm left to my own devices, I'm hitting up the Taco Bell 5 minutes from my house every fucking time. Yes. And I'm paying for it every time. I'm never not paying for it.
Yeah.
my poor stomach gets very upset, but it's what I do. So, I've got friends who are like, oh, dude, I'll drive out of state for my favorite restaurant. I'm like, I won't leave the town for my favorite restaurant. You're out of your mind.
Yeah. We have when we used to live in West Tennessee, we had a place called Best Donuts. They are the best donuts I've ever had.
Hands down the best. Okay.
Hands down the best. And then we had a place called Asahi, which is a Japanese restaurant. The best there too. That was in Jackson, Tennessee. And now that we live in East Tennessee, we're still trying to find places like that. Like we've been to 4 or 5 different donut shops. There is nothing that compares. Yeah, it's just not the same. And they're not even nothing fancy neither. It's just the basics. We tried different things. But when they're done, great.
Yeah.
You don't need a bunch of other crap. There's a lot of stuff up here where they put whipped cream and strawberries.
Yeah, too much stuff. Donut. I don't need that on my donut. Yeah,
just give me
if I'm getting a donut, I'm usually getting it for just give me a plain glazed, right? And when it's good, it speaks for itself. And my buddy Mike, he's a huge donut guy. And when I say a huge donut guy, he'll eat 12 on his own for fun. Like that's what he does.
That's my son.
And so, he's very particular about his donuts. So I got him a job where I work. And every once in a while, it's not every week, but sometimes it might be twice in a week, they'll bring donuts. And if it's not from the good spot, he's like, I only had one. And I'm like, are you? But you're the donut guy. He's like, yeah, but I only, they're not good donuts. Yeah. And, to his credit, he's not wrong. He's just so funny about it. So
Vivian says, we have land on the other side of the Great Smoky Mountains in North Carolina. That's not bad. I basically live in the Smoky Mountains, but I'm about 45 minutes from Knoxville. So I can get to the University of Tennessee. Like we're huge Tennessee football fans and stuff.
Yeah.
So I can get there in 35, 40 minutes, which is nice. A lot better than 5.5 hours where we used to live.
Yeah. I spent a week at the University of Tennessee because my sister was attending because my dad, he lives in Tennessee. And And so I was up there for just the summer when I was 18. I wasn't going to college myself. But you know, she was like, you want to go to the college with me? I was like, and loiter around the campus, maybe meet some hot chicks. Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And it was such a waste of time. I just walked everywhere. It was pretty boring. I didn't meet anyone. I didn't have money for lunch. So I was really a vagrant, I think you could call me. I was loitering. Like if the cops got called, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, so I haven't been up to see my dad's new place since he got it, but he's maybe I think now like 40 minutes outside of like Christiana and Murfreesboro, like that area.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he's close to Nashville.
Yeah. I think about an hour out of Nashville, maybe.
My brother lived in Murfreesboro for a year or a year and a half. And us coming from really, like, we lived, when we were growing up, lived in a really small town, like, might be 700 people. Maybe a lot of them were old. And now, like, him moving to Murfreesboro, where it's, 30 minutes from Nashville and there's 2 million people there, it's a whole nother world. Same thing for me. I mean, there's not that many people up in East Tennessee, but it's a whole different world up here than it is. That people are so nice up here. Like, it's, I guess because there's so many tourists that move or live here, that everybody's friendly. I mean, I don't know. It's just so different. Everything's just laid back. It's nice. So.
Yeah, down in the Houston area, not everybody's super friendly, but it's, I don't know. I've been in this area. I get asked sometimes if I'm, where I'm from, because I don't really sound like I'm from Texas, but I was born and raised in Texas. I think it was my speech therapy that beat the accent out of me if I was going to have one. Yeah. But I don't know. Most people are just kind of people. I haven't noticed any overly. So Japan was super friendly. Like all the people were super nice, super friendly. But anytime we've gone anywhere in the U.S., it's always nice enough. We've never encountered any issues.
Yeah. So Vivian, hour and 20 from Asheville. I think I'm an hour and a half from Nashville. From Asheville. Bucksnort, yes, that is around Nashville as well. That is a very small town. That is on the west side of Nashville. I drive by it whenever we go home or back and forth, so I know where it is. Let's see.
Say howdy, y'all. Howdy, y'all.
Howdy,
What's
y'all.
going on, man? I got my cap on. It ain't no 10-gallon. It's just my dirty old band hat. But, I just hang out down here, have ourselves a good old time.
Yep. All right. So I know you're a little bit of a gamer since you have your own desk for it. What is your favorite game?
Man. So if you asked me this a while ago, it's sort of hard, right? Because we, as readers, as gamers, as consumers of content, we tend to have recency bias, I think, is like a very real thing. Like, I read something, this is my favorite thing, right? But so I recently, within the last month when it came out, started playing Claire Obscura Expedition 33.
Everyone loves that game.
It's phenomenal. If you are a lover of the like JRPG genre, if you like Final Fantasy, Persona, Dragon Quest, like even Dragon Quest, I would say, like games of that genre, Claire Obscura is fantastic, phenomenal. If you don't like those things, right? If you just like games with a good story and interesting gameplay mechanics, Claire Obscura is still very good. Like it just. So my buddy Mike, the same donut guy, he's like really tuned into like the metal scene, to the video game scene, the donut scene. Like he's locked in. And so he knew about this before it sort of blew up in our like, again, very insular like indie community. And he was like, yeah, I think you'd like it. And I ignored him because he tells me that about a lot of different things. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I saw this game across like my timeline. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I was like, yo, Mike, have you seen this? He's like, I fucking hate you, because he told me about it. And I'm like, okay, fair. And
Yeah.
so I checked it out and I got hooked, right? And so my wife knows, like, if it's a multiplayer game, sometimes I'll, play like Call of Duty or
Yeah.
Smash Brothers, different little games with like friends, and I'll play till like 10 and then call it a night, right? Go to bed. But with this game, it was like pushing like 10:30, 11. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "The
It's like,
game, dude." She's like, oh, "Okay." And I think by the third day of that in a row, she knew that she had lost me to this
Yeah.
game for a bit. And I was like, "Look, there's a lot of extra content in it that I'm not planning to do, but I need to beat this game. And the sooner I beat it, the sooner I can get back to writing and stuff." And she's like, "All right, dude, do what you're gonna do. I'll just watch Lost," because she started rewatching Lost. And so I played the game, I beat it, I loved it. I think it's a fantastic game, and I can't talk more highly of it. Aside from that, I was a big fan of Kingdom Hearts until Kingdom Hearts 3 dropped. And that was a disappointing dumpster fire of a game. But Kingdom Hearts 4 is looking really good, and they might rope me back in.
Yeah,
they might.
It does look good.
Because it's looking really good. So I loved 1. I would say that was like a pivotal game for my youth, and I liked 2 like a lot. I remember playing a crap ton of that, and so I was very excited for 3. And when 3 dropped, I was very disappointed very shortly into it. I was like, "Oh, this kind of, what the fuck is going on?" But most Final Fantasy games, most JRPGs, Smash Brothers, Call of Duty, anything that I can be like semi-competitive in, because I am a very competitive person. I enjoy like trying my best in, and I'm not always the best. And that's what happens, right? Like you dabble in so many different things, you're not going to be that good unless you're like the fortunate one enough to be blessed. But so I like competitive games. I like single player experiences, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Say
what about you? I was about to ask.
I would say now, because I just don't have the time, I basically just play either like some baseball or college football or Call of Duty. But back in the day, I'll say the best ending of a game I ever played, I'll still say BioShock. The ending and the giant twist literally blew my mind when I was a kid. I mean, my gosh. I mean, you played the whole game. You hadn't played it?
No, but I've heard. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos about it, because some games I know that I'll never get to, but I know that their story is worth having listened to or something. So I'll watch like a deep dive video about it. And so that's BioShock was one of those where it's like, oh, that's super crazy interesting. Right?
If you can find a let's play, or not a let's play, but say the video of it where it has the whole, like they turn the video into the movie. Yeah, they turn it into a movie because it's nothing but cutscenes. That's probably great. My goodness. Just as soon as you hear what is said, it's like, where did that come from? It literally just blew my mind on how they did that. I mean, it's wild.
The most recent one I did that with, I think, was the newest God of War, because I had played like the first one that came out on the PS4. And I think I got basically to the end, and then life just got in the way. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just watch the story of it for the second part, because I know I didn't finish the first one. I probably won't finish the second one, and I don't mind having it spoiled for me if I'm choosing to spoil it. You know, if I like see something come across the timeline, that kind of sucks.
I don't like fighting games. Like I'm not good at them, so I don't like them. But I'll watch the video of the whole movie of like the Mortal Kombat, the Mortal Kombat games, because they're awesome. I mean, their cutscene movies, when you put them all together, is so good.
Yeah.
So I really like them.
Yeah, that's essentially the same thing I do. So I got you on that. I'll mess somebody up. Alex got to experience it firsthand. We had a little bit of lag, but I got to mess him up on Smash Bros for a minute. Well, so he was beating me, and then we disconnected, and then we linked up after the disconnect, and I think I won that one. So it's not like a real set or anything.
Yeah.
But definitely showed him. I got it a little bit.
So do Did you play any sports or anything, or do you play
So I tried to play football rematch right
very much?
now. Yeah. I tried to play football when I was in high school because personally, I try to be like fairly athletic. I love
Mhm.
going out and playing basketball, throwing the football, doing different things. So I try to play football because with my youth group on Wednesdays, we had a big old empty field in front of the small Baptist church where I would attend. And so we would
Okay.
just throw the football for like an hour before church started. And so some of the guys did play for the team and were like, hey, you should, give it a try. And I was like, oh, I will give it a try. And then unfortunately, my grandma couldn't, like her work schedule, she raised me single, just my grandma. And her work schedule did not allow for like her to pick me up and make it like easy or anything. And so I
Right.
went for the tryouts and I passed the tryouts despite I did not get, I was a nerd, right? I super duper was. And so a lot of the football players didn't like me. Completely fair too, because I know I had like a real smart mouth on me. And so anytime they would say something, I'd say it back, but I couldn't, I barked more than I bit, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
so like looking back on who I was as a kid, I'm like, no, I'd probably bully me too. I get it. Like, you know, let's be a little introspective about it. I was
Oh
a little bit
Lord.
of a,
Yeah.
so, I did do that, but then luckily an extracurricular I was able to do was drumline because so I was able to get
Okay.
on my school's drumline because my grandma had a friend named Terry who had a daughter that was in the band, and it just so happened to work out that they could pick me up from band practice, and they lived maybe 6 minutes from our house. So I was really fortunate that I was able to do something, right? Because if not, I wouldn't have been in anything. And drumline wasn't nearly as physical as like football or something, but it
Yeah.
was still a lot of fun. Oh, absolutely the best part
That's
of the
no
band. I
doubt.
had it's so funny because I wasn't good, right? I wasn't bad, but
So you what Nick Cannon?
I was
Eh,
not Nick
eh, eh.
Cannon. So I wanted, hey, trust me, when I got on the drum line, I wanted to be Nick Cannon because like
Yeah.
snare drum is the coolest drum.
Hmm.
What I got instead, because I was so tall, and I'm not incredibly tall, I'm only 6'2" now, but I was also basically 6'2" when I was like 17,
I'm the
right?
same way. I've been 6'3" since I was in 7th or 8th grade. I haven't
Yeah,
grown since
yeah.
then. You know, I've
Mind
always
you, once
tall.
I hit that height, I wasn't getting picked on nearly as much
Hmm.
too, you know?
Yeah,
So,
things are different when you're taller. I don't know why, but
yeah,
they are.
yeah, just for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so they put me on the biggest drum of the bass line. So I mean the drum, my camera can't do it justice, but it was bigger than like my whole torso, right? And so I would have to
Yeah.
like lean back when I held it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be on either the quads or the snare, and I wasn't good enough to get on that, but I was good enough to at least be on the actual drum line, which I was, thankful for. So that was a lot of fun. And then nowadays, I play basketball every once in a while. I play a lot of pickleball. People make fun of me for it because they're like, "That's that old person sport," and it's like,
It
I
sounds
live
aw
in
it looks awesome.
Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Houston and we have a lot of like facilities around us, and there's a lot of like young people getting into it
Mhm.
because it blew up.
They
And
have
so
their own, like, tournaments and stuff, like an
yeah, like
actual,
leagues and stuff.
league and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen it on my Samsung TV downstairs. Like, I'll turn it on, and if it's not on a specific, like,
Yeah.
Netflix, whatever it is, it does its, like, own channel stuff,
Yeah.
and that sucker's on, like, 24/7.
That
Like,
is
it
so
never ends.
funny. So we have a Samsung TV upstairs, right?
Yeah.
And ours always goes default to this show called Heartland, which I'd never heard of, but it's just
Partly
always,
oh, yeah. My
yeah.
wife's watched every episode, loves it.
So it just
Yeah.
auto defaults to that. And so it's, this kind of country scene where they're talking about
Yep.
something. And I'm like, what is this melodrama
Yeah.
that's popping up? Um,
It's a Western soap opera is the easiest way to describe it.
yeah, that's what it sort of feels like, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like I think Ashton Kutcher had one called like The Ranch that was like a
Yep.
Western-ish soap opera. Yeah.
Yeah. As Vivian said, I know the drum my friend's son played the quad. My son played trumpet. And he played football when he got taller. He didn't like it.
Yeah.
Don't like us.
But yeah, I try to stay fairly active, and my family has a lot of my dad, and on my dad's side we have a lot of like clottage issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's heavy smoker, heavy drinker, heavy eater, all that sort of stuff. So I try to stay as active as I can just to like offset that while I can. You know, I don't smoke or anything, thankfully, but it's one of those things where it's like if it's genetic, it doesn't matter what you do, it might get you. You know.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he joined the Marines.
I
Awesome.
almost joined the
That's
Marines when I
cool.
was 17. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
My,
did the
my
test.
son, yeah, for the last year, which he's 11. So
Yeah,
when he was the whole time he's been 10, he just turned 11 in February.
he's been all about it.
He's been all about the Army and stuff. Like my
Yeah,
wife's father was in the Army. My wife's father or stepdad was in the Navy, and then her uncle was in I think he was in the Army as well.
yeah.
And so he's been all about it. You know, he's got T-shirts and stuff. And now he's changing his mind. He might do something else. But who knows? He may go back.
It was a really close call for me because again, I did all the tests. I passed all the tests.
Yeah.
They were so because I was I 16 turning 17? I might have been whatever it was. I needed parental consent. And again, I was raised by my grandma, and technically she did not have legal custody of me, so she couldn't give the consent. And so the Marine recruiter at the time who was trying to get me was like, let's scan it, let's fax this to your mom and your dad, right? We got to get consent. Fax it over, and then I remember having a conversation with my dad where he was like, I'm not going to sign this. You need to wait till you're 18 because I don't think this is the right call for you. Da 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 da. I was like, that's fine. And then by the time my birthday rolled around, I had changed my mind, believe it or not. And so it was so funny because they kept calling me. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, no shame to any who do. You know, I have a long history of service in my family too, and it just, you know, it ended up not being the path that I took. But I can see why people do it. You know, it's definitely one of those things where, you know, when you're younger or even older, if the call to action comes and you feel it, you just feel it. You know, and that's just how it was. Yeah, my granddad served. On both sides of my family, it was the grandparents that had served, and then my dad, he didn't serve, but he was a plumber, so he was fighting in his own trenches.
That's right. We need all jobs. Go back to height for a second. I'll tell you something. I'm 6'3". My brother is 6'2".
Okay.
My sister is 5'10" or 5'11", so she's very tall for a female.
Yeah.
My dad is like 5'7".
He's
hilarious. Like super short. So I mean, we've all three towered over him since we were all like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. You know, every one of us. So it's crazy.
One of my best buds, Chris, he's like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5".
No.
And so I've never really felt tall because he's always been taller than me.
Yeah.
Right. And then people are like, oh, wow, you're kind of tall. I'm like, I don't think I am, actually. You should meet my buddy Chris. He'll make you feel short. Yeah. You know, and he's a big individual, like 400 pounds or something. So he's tall.
He brought out her husband's family. All right. Excuse me.
Sorry, 1 second.
If you were not an author, or I guess technically have the day job you have,
sure,
what would be your dream job?
So I had mentioned that I was in law enforcement for a few years, and honestly, being like a detective had always sort of called to me. I always wanted to be, and that, you know, unfortunately didn't happen. But I thought about you know, trying to join the FBI for a while because I thought that was really cool. Yeah. And so I got to meet with some of them because of my profession, but it, you know, obviously didn't go through with that. So something where I'm like helping people, I think, because I do enjoy helping people. I don't love interacting with people because I'm very awkward, but I enjoy helping people, as weird as that is. So something like that, dream job. I don't know. anything where I would be like sort of left to my own devices is usually pretty
Mhm.
good. I do well with management and structure. I don't have like a authority complex or anything. So if somebody's telling me to do something, I usually don't balk at that or
Yeah.
struggle. But at the same time, I also, if I'm left to, do something on my own, I'll usually do it pretty well. So it just depends. I literally haven't considered it. I was almost an accountant. I went to school
Okay.
for it. I got my associates and I was working my way up towards my bachelor's for accounting. And then I got transferred into the sales position that I'm in now. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
if I'm doing well in sales, I don't need
Yeah.
an accounting degree. So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
true.
put that on hiatus. Yeah.
All right. So, who would you say is your favorite author or authors if you have more than one?
Yeah, big fan of Joe Abercrombie, obviously. I think he's insanely talented. Here recently, I've gotten more into James Islington's work. I think
Okay.
that's the name. If I'm
That the
the
Curious,
Lacanius
Lacanius
trilogy and the
trilogy,
Will of the Many.
River Many.
So I read the Will of the Many, and I've got the Shadow of What Was Lost. I
Okay.
haven't finished it. I started it, and then I bounced off, not because of the book, but because I had like another sort of deadline with reading that I wanted to try to hit. So I like his prose. I like his style. I think it's pretty dang good. Brian McClellan with the Gunpowder Mage, not the Gunpowder Mage. What's it called? It's something gun.
Uh,
It's gun.
it's the Powder. It's not the Powder
The
Mage.
Powder Mage. Yeah. Why
Yeah.
did I say Gunpowder Mage? Yeah,
Yeah.
Powder
Well, I
Mage
mean, they
trilogy.
use gunpowder for the
Yeah,
magic
yeah,
or something. Like they ingest it or something. I
yeah.
haven't read anything about it, but I've heard it's pretty dang good.
It was pretty good. So I read book one, and I felt it was a little
Yeah.
slow in places, but
Yeah.
a lot of book ones have to do
Mhm.
that for setup and things like that. And it was interesting. I think it was good, and I know his other stuff is like different, but sort of the same. So I want to read more of his stuff. He stood out to me. I really enjoyed the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee.
I've got to
She,
get to it. I want to read it
it's
so bad.
super good.
That's
Have you
what I've
started
heard.
it or not?
No,
Not yet?
I have book one right
Yeah.
here. It's just whenever I get a chance.
Yeah, spin the wheel, but put
It's on there.
Jade City. No, put Jade City on all options
Yeah.
and just spin it and start it,
Yeah.
because it was very good. And I wasn't sure how much I would like it,
Mhm.
just because it's not traditional fantasy
It's
from like,
I was gonna say
yeah,
I've heard it's like Godfather with samurai swords, kind of. Is that a
a
good way
little
to
bit.
describe it? Pretty
Yeah, a
close with a
little
little
bit.
magic.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was the magic was well handled. The characters are excellent, and so by
Yeah.
the end of the series, I was absolutely in love. I think it was
Yeah.
great. So, like I said before, favorites and inspirations. You just sort of, I don't know, you just sort of can get a little bit of everything,
Mhm.
right? And so it's really hard to say. It would probably be easier to say who my favorites aren't than who my favorites are. But that would be a lot ruder, right?
Yeah.
It would be like, I really don't like X, Y, and Z. And it's like, whoa, dude,
Yeah. It's like I
taking some
love
shots.
all these authors, but this
Yes.
guy's the worst.
Man, this guy stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right.
What about
So
you? Who's your number one author, would you say?
that's tough. I'm gonna say I would say Sanderson, just
Yeah.
because he's the most I've read, but actually my favorite trilogy I've ever read, and I think the books are incredible, are the first three Red Rising Pierce Brown novels.
I've heard fantastic things
They,
about those. Yeah.
oh my gosh, book one's good, but book two's the best book I've ever read. Like
That's
it,
crazy. I need to check it out like
the
ASAP.
end, yes,
Yeah.
yes, the ending of book two and the start of book three, from Golden Sun to Morning Star,
Yeah.
that probably 200 or 300 pages, like you go from one directly into the next one,
Yeah.
is dang near mind blowing on what it is. Like
Just
the
how
stuff
like
that ends
peak it is.
and the
Yeah.
start of the next is just something
To behold.
I don't even know what to say about it.
That's
is
amazing.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny because I saw it was either like a thread or like a post about something that was like, when he first released, somebody had met him and he was like, I'll be lucky if I sell a few hundred or like a few thousand.
Yeah.
And then it's this like super acclaimed series. And that's
Oh, yeah.
awesome, because he seems like a really nice individual too. And,
He is, but what I understand how he does it too, like his books. Like he'll write his book and, but if this is right, like he'll write it and he'll either write the whole thing or he'll write a ton of it. And if it's not what he likes, he literally scraps the whole thing and completely restarts over and does it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
a process, but
yeah.
So to me, that it sort of makes sense when you think of like, if you look at it from like a surgical aspect, I guess, right? Like if he starts it and he doesn't enjoy it, it's probably a sense of like, if everything's interconnected and one thing informs the other, then getting rid of a section that doesn't feel well still leaves some of that contamination maybe. And so he just thinks he can do better if he starts over. I get it. I haven't done that in a long time, but if it works for him, which clearly it seems to, right?
Something.
Yeah. It makes me think of how Patrick Rothfuss, how he sort of thinks about his work, right? Where, the difference between, I think one thing that he said that always stuck to me was the difference for him between something being slender and something being slim, right?
Yeah.
When you think about it, it's very similar. Something can be slender and slim, but there's a slight distinction. And is it a little pretentious to be like, the difference between these two very similar things? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think he was trying to be. And I think when you're that serious about the craft, having that distinction is important. Yeah. And it probably, like a pyramid, right, with layers, it informs the other levels of that craft, right? Yeah. Where with like a top-down view, it's really hard to like focus and see all of that different things and all those different pieces you're trying to put in. But if you take a step back and start from scratch or something, it might be a little bit easier. So maybe that's why he does it. I don't know. Unrelated to what we were talking about, Vivian did say it's all perspective, and I think that does apply. I think, funnily enough, she was talking about height, but it's all perspective, even with the writing and the craft. So,
all right, so we're almost hitting 2 hours, so we will wrap it up. I've got 3 questions, and then we will end this interview.
Okay.
So. All right. So number one. What are you reading?
Right now, oh man, I had it in here, but it's by my bed now. So on audio, I'm listening to The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. My paperback that I've been working on since maybe end of April, early May is A Grave for Us All by Mike Roberti. And normally I would breeze through this book, but I've been spinning so many other plates that it's my physical reads have been going kind of slow. Fantastic novel. If you haven't read the Traders We Are or the Crown and Tide series, I highly recommend it. It was one of the first
Crown and Tide series.
Yeah, so I think that's what this is called, and it was one of the first like indie books that I saw, because before I got into
Michael Roberti.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. So, I haven't read it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So before I got into the scene, I wasn't reading a lot of indie, and then as I got into the scene, I was like, I need to read more of what I'm trying to represent, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going to go independent, I think it's important to continue to read in general, right? Mm-hmm. And then also have a better understanding of like who my potential contemporaries are and what the scene sort of looks like. And that's kind of hard to do because the indie scene is as diverse as could be. And there's no way I could possibly read them all. But his series was one of the first that like came across my feed when I was, starting to look into it. So I read Traders We Are last year. I'm getting to A Grave for Us All, right now, over halfway through. Absolutely. The way that he handles characters is very well done. I greatly enjoy his I'm thinking about Emil and all the shit that character goes through, and I think it's very believable and realistic while still being fun.
Okay.
And then so audio, physical, and then my ebook right now is The Way of Adon or Edon by Philip Chase.
By Philip Chase. Yeah, I've got that whole
Yeah,
trilogy on ebook. I bought it all for like 99 cents when he had that sale
right.
like a year ago. It's like,
I'm enjoying it. It's very classical feeling, which I think
yes,
was
that's
his
what I've
intention
heard.
when he wrote it, which is
Yeah.
you know, I tend to lean towards like slightly faster paced fantasies,
Mhm.
but I can see it for what it is, and it's very well done. I'm maybe 55 or 60% through on that.
Okay.
I'd have to check. And that one I
Supposedly
can
they
read.
get better. Like each book gets like
Oh,
way like it steps up. So
yeah, I believe it. That I've heard the same thing about the Binding Tenets trilogy, if I do say so myself.
Yep.
I've heard it's just yeah, I think that's typically what you see with debut authors too. Is like book one will be, it's either good or not, and that's the truth of it. Some debuts aren't good, and that's okay. And I think as authors, we need to stop letting our feelings get in the way. Like everybody wants to put out a good book, but that's not how things work, right?
Exactly.
Plenty of products, like if we just want to think about it in a corporate perspective, plenty of products get released that are non-functional apps, games, and that's okay. It's like recognizing that something isn't perfect and taking the steps to like maybe fix it, where I think we could all kind of improve and grow on. But so a lot of debuts that are good, you will typically see marked growth in the sequel just because they've learned a little bit better about what they're doing, and maybe they've gotten better feedback on this and things like that. So I completely believe that his second book goes from like, oh, this is like pretty good to this is a fantastic novel, right? And that's the aspiration that I think we all probably shoot for. But
yeah. So Vivian is reading The Source of Strife by Alex Arch. I've not heard of that.
I've seen that one around. Yeah,
and then
I haven't picked it up myself.
She's reading 3 betas right now. Golly.
Jeez, Lou. Yeah, that's a full plate.
Yeah. I just finished on my arc of The Pawns of Havoc by Dave Lawson, of course. It was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I need to get to that. I started it, and then he sent it off for edits and was like, hey, if you haven't finished yet, like wait till the edits come back. And so I picked up another book in between, which would have been The Way of Adon. And so I need to get back to Dave's Pawns because I enjoyed Envoys. I did good. I liked what he did with the magic. So
and I told him that, which I think he's gonna be on the channel June 1st. He's gonna come back on. He was my very first ever author interview.
That's awesome.
So I have him back on.
Dave's a good guy.
Yeah. But I told him, and I think I even wrote in my review, I was like, he really stepped up his writing from one book. It's not, and it's whenever I say that too, it's like, well, then was his writing bad in the first book? No, it was fine. It was good. But there's something about, I think you do as an author get better each book.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe the premise or something is just doesn't click with somebody, but I think your writing, if it doesn't get better, then that's probably a problem. You might not be the best writer.
That's sort of like my mentality with every project I do, where I'm like, man, I know I'm not as good as I could be, right? And I want to improve. And if I'm not improving, what's the problem, right? Well, and it's like trying to identify that.
Is that I guess if you're not getting, not that I'm trying to say this bad, if you're not getting better as a writer, do you consider yourself a writer? Because if you are, would you not be more of an author? Is there not a difference in them? I mean, I don't do it, so I don't know, but it feels like
I don't know. I saw that debate sort of like pop up on the timeline, I think yesterday or maybe this morning.
Yeah, I think I did see someone say that.
I don't know. I think anyone can be a writer. I think the distinction is like if you publish, then you're technically an author. But if you are unpublished and you're just writing, maybe you're a writer. But
okay.
I don't know. I think like it's really interesting because like for Bloodwoven, I've seen, or for the Binding Tenets in general, I've seen people say that like the character work is awesome, but like the plot isn't really there. And then, like I said, Alex had read Cracks for me, and it's almost like the inverse. Like the plot is like way more there, and stuff like that. But the character work is like sacrificed because of it a little bit. And so I'm like, well, I can't do a series that is like, I can't be known for like having a character and then, go into the next series and the character stuff not click. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, but that being said, as I'm fixing up the character stuff, if the plot is even stronger than it was in like Bloodwoven and the writing is a bit stronger and stuff, that's a good sign. And so it seems like that's on the right track, and I'm really excited about it. So good betas are super integral, as Vivian said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, alphas, betas, arc readers, all of it. Yeah, writing is a really solitary thing, but the act of putting out a book, and especially a book that is consumable and enjoyable to as many people as possible, that is not a solitary thing. I think Stephen King was the one, like in his On Writing craft novel, he said, like, write the first draft with your door shut. That's completely fine. But after the first draft, you need to open your door. Let your wife in, let your friends in, let people that you trust put eyes on it, because nobody's infallible. You're going to have errors and mistakes and stuff. And like we talked about earlier, something will make sense to me when I'm reading it, but all the information might not be in the story. So you need other people to see it. Like, you just can't. The people who put out something without having anyone put eyes on it before, I just don't understand how they do it. So
yeah. All right. Let's see. Oh, look at this. I've been doing.
Hey, we were talking about him earlier.
Ratliff, yeah. Last several months have been released. He'll be on my channel next Saturday, not this one. Yeah, the next Saturday.
I will be on a river. So
hey, I don't blame you. That's where I'd be too.
I'm excited. It'll be a good time.
Excuse me. I should have been done with Love, Family, Cancer by Bill Beckett. I should have been done with it on Monday, and my work's been nuts. Because as soon as I'm done with it, then I finally get to start this, which should have been done in April.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. And I wasn't joking. I'm gonna get you a copy of Bloodless. I'm gonna get it sent out to you. And I wish I could have. My wife wants me to get the audio done for the next two, Bloodbound and Bloodless, but the narrator one is like booked out, and then two, financially it does. There are ways to do it for free. Yeah, I did a split with my guy, so I have to pay him a bit up front, and then he gets some of the royalties because, like I said, I felt like he was worth it. But so it's gonna be probably a while till I get sequels out, unless I go with a different narrator, which I don't really want to do. But I'd rather keep it all the same guy if I can.
Yeah. Then your next series, then you can change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I need to read it. I want to read it. Yes.
All right. You've got your plate full with betas and arcs and stuff. I don't blame you. Yeah, that's quite a full plate.
Oh. All right, two more. What is your favorite book?
Oh, geez. Favorite book ever. Oh, that's actually really tough. It's sort of like who's my favorite authors. It'd be easier to tell you the books that I absolutely did not enjoy more than books that I did enjoy.
Yeah.
But
you seem kind of like me on that. There's not much stuff I don't like. I mean, but whenever you're getting told by people that have read so much stuff, you don't really have bad reads, really.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky to do
that. I remember rereading it not terribly long ago, and it doesn't hold up quite the same way, but I think I had mentioned Elfstones of Shannara. I really enjoyed when I was younger. Just that whole sort of it, because it was very much a travelogue, point A to point B. There's a MacGuffin, there's some plot twists, things like that. Sword of Shannara, Elfstones of Shannara. I think I remember devouring Rage of Dragons by Evan Winters. I thought Rage of
I've not
Dragons
read
was,
it, but I've heard it's insane.
I really, really enjoyed book 1. I was more lukewarm on book 2, unfortunately. Just because I felt like it lost the plot a little bit, or it did not pay off on some of the promises that I think book 1 set up. But, or as is always the possibility, I misunderstood the promises, right? Which does happen. But so I really enjoyed that. Book 1, Rage of Dragons. Sanderson stuff, I do typically like to like it. You know, I do not like to like it. I do typically enjoy it. You know, this last book was a slog to sort of get through. And I was like, wow, I mean, there's a difference between development and just fluff in the pages. But for the most part, I feel like he doesn't really miss. And then, of course, like Abercrombie stuff, the Blade itself, that very first one, it really captured me with now I'm blanking on his name, Bias. Oh, okay, Glocta and Bias and Logan Nine Fingers and everybody. That, I mean, it was super impactful for me because that was right around when I first started reading again, and I was like, these characters are fantastic, right? But and then Age of Madness Orso, who's a character in the Age of Madness trilogy, I was like, this is how you write a character trying to do better, sort of like Prince Elhokar, right? Except he didn't have anyways. Well, spoilers all around, unintentional or not. But
all right. Last one. And
okay, sorry.
It's for me. So what book would you recommend me to read?
Oh man, you know, since we were just talking about it, really, if you haven't given Microbirdies series a chance, I would suggest just giving it a try. The Traders We Are. I think he has gone on record saying that he thinks the novella Revenge of the Thousands, The Revenge of Thousands, he thinks it's stronger writing than The Traders We Are, which it probably is. It came out afterwards, so I would imagine that he improved his craft a little bit between the two. But if you start The Traders We Are and you finish it and you enjoy it, then undoubtedly you would probably enjoy Revenge of the Thousand. So I would just say start with book 1, because that's how I feel about my my series. Because, you know, I've got the novella Bitter Ends, which is, you know, it takes place technically the contents of the story takes place before Bloodwoven, but it's told from, you know, the Noosemen in Bloodwoven. It's told from the Noosemen's point of view when they were training as children. So it's a very different kind of look at the same world and stuff. And it can be read before Bloodwoven, after Bloodwoven. It doesn't really impact anything other than, you know, you see the name Dennick and you're like, oh shit, Dennick, you know, as you're reading Bloodwoven versus one or the other. So I think Dave was sort of getting on to me about Bitter Ends because I don't really promote it all that much. It's free through my newsletter, the ebook is, but I think it's a very competent novella. You check your shelf. I'll send it to you if you need it with Bloodless.
Sure,
I got
I'll
you.
read it. That's cool.
But he was getting on to me the other day because he's like, you know, you have a novella that you don't ever talk about, and I'm like, I do have a novella that I don't ever talk about. Oh, Sean O'Boyle's books are great. Spricket the Bard was a lot of fun. Yeah,
I had him on the channel I guess it's been a few months ago now. I think he asked me about doing an arc for checks, balances, and proper procedures, and I know I did one of the cover reveals for it, but with all the crap that was going on, I didn't get a chance, and I didn't reply saying that I would read it, and I feel bad because I know it's good. Like, I really like Spricket the Bard. I thought was great.
It was fantastic, and I told him I couldn't commit to an arc read, unfortunately, just because I've also a lot of stuff going on. But he's gotten some really good reviews so far, and I think he's going to
Yeah.
do great with it because it's such a fun premise. It's
It sounds
humorous. It's a
awesome.
good story,
Yeah.
and Sean knows how to write a freaking story. So Alex is also cooking up something really fun that he hasn't really shared too much of. So that's I'm excited.
I know something's coming.
A little
Me and
bit of
Alex
it,
have talked a little, about something.
he's got something in the works, and I was spoiled in a good way, much like I am with my desks, and I got to see the cover for it, and it's amazing. So big things in the works for Alex. You gotta keep eyes on him.
I don't ever do this, but since you're pretty big on fantasy, I'm gonna give you a book to read, a recommendation.
Please. Okay.
So, and she was a trad author, but I think she's a published author, or I can't remember who she's with now, but she did win a Spiff Bow. Have you read The Sword?
I've already read it. Oh yeah, I absolutely did. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Did you? It's the weirdest but great book I think I've ever read. Like the structure is so different.
The structure is very different.
The thing. Yeah. And if it puts you off, I totally understand why.
I thought the story was over about halfway through, right? Yep. And I was like, oh, well, how does it continue from here? And then it does. And it continues organically, and it felt fine to me. Yeah. The magic, the story, the world, all of it. I really enjoyed it. I thought I could see why it was a winner, and then why ML Wong, is that correct? Yeah, has gone on to do bigger books like Blood Over Brighthaven. I've heard is phenomenal, and so it's on my eventual get to list and stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you see where what book won Spiff Bow this year?
Yes, by Blood by Salt by
have you read it?
J.L. Odom. I haven't read it yet.
I haven't either, but everything
it's on my list.
It's on mine. Everything I've seen said this book is so great.
Point of pride, as dumb as it is that Bob Blue Smoke Fire with SFFI Insiders, SFFI. I'm gonna keep butchering it but anyways, he really liked By Blood by Salt, and he also really liked Bloodwoven. I'm like, I'm basically a winner,
There you go.
But I can't be more excited because essentially an underdog won the contest. I think JL came out of nowhere with her debut, ended up winning. It was a tie, right? Credit where credit is due to Adrian Gibson. I don't want to short anybody. But
that's Mushroom Blues, right?
Right. Yeah. And I've seen a few reviews and I'm like, was that actually a fantasy? It's very sci fantasy. And it's just like, is it speculative fiction in a fantasy contest? I don't know. I haven't read it. But I saw a few reviews and I'm like, that would have been an interesting conversation if it had won, right? Like, how do we delineate what is or isn't sci-fi and what counts? But I think Mark Lawrence on his blog has a list of 10 rules. Mm-hmm. And one of them is if you say it's fantasy, then it is, but don't be surprised if the judges cut you, right? And it's it must have been fantasy then, right? Because the judges it got second place with the tie. So I don't know.
I don't know who the first one might have put out a review on By Blood or by Salt, but the first one I seen was Tori Tekken 2, maybe 3 months ago. Yeah. And I know she was raving about it, and she's not big on loving everything, but I know she was huge on that book, on how good it was. So, and she's pretty strict on a lot of things I've noticed. Unlike some of her reviews.
As an author in the space, there's always two mindsets, right? It's do I want to, I guess, not hurt anyone's feelings, or do I not want to have blowback, right? Because as a aspiring author, if I say I don't like a book that is maybe popular or has a fan base, then will I get shadow banned or blacklisted or something? And you don't want to see that. And do I think that happens? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I think it, that's just how the world works. And I'm a little cynical sometimes. So do I think that probably happens? Yeah, absolutely. There's a good chance that it does. Do I think any of the big names are doing it? I don't know. And I wouldn't even begin to speculate. Right. But there's always that chance. And while you would hate to see it or hate to admit that it could happen, there's a chance that it could, and I think a lot of aspiring authors don't want to take that chance. But I also think that's why you see more of the bigger established names comfortable being critical, right? Because they're already established and there's nothing to potentially lose or not lose. So, I've talked to plenty of indie authors in the space, right? And that's one of the concerns where it's like, how honest can we be with each other? And the dream goal would be as completely honest as possible, because that's
I think there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it though too. You can not like a book and you don't have to trash the book
100%.
or the author. Like, you can just say it's not for me. I mean, there's ways around it, of course, but I think that's the big thing, is trying to, because even for me, I'm a nobody who people are kind enough to send me stuff and I review, but it's kind of like, if I like absolutely lambast somebody because I think their book's just terrible, I feel like there's going to be backlash on that. Like,
people will stop
people will stop asking me to do stuff or stuff like that. And so, but now if you get, I mean, this is in like the booktube space, who actually do some of this. Like, if you go to someone like Mike, who we've talked about, who's got 130,000 subscribers, hey, he didn't like what Ed Crocker's book. He DNF'd it. Lightfall, yeah. But the thing, even with him, he tells you, he's like, it's just not for me. It doesn't mean the book's bad. He's like,
100%.
I just didn't like it, and that's cool. And you can respect that. Like, you don't have to go out and say this book's awful, don't buy this book, stay away from this book. It's just a whole different thing.
I think a lot of, and I don't want to say a lot, but I think it's really easy for indie authors, especially ones who haven't gotten like maybe a lot of recognition or something, to say like, oh, you don't like my book, therefore you don't like me. My work is a reflection of me. This is my problem, right? I think it's really easy to sort of fall into that trap, because as humans, as people, we do that with everything, right? Like, oh, I submitted my work proposal to you and you didn't like it because of X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, you must hate me. This guy's an asshole. Yeah. It's like, no, dude, it's just work. And the craft is the same idea, right? Where, is your writing a reflection of you to an extent? Absolutely. But does a negative review like reflect on you? I don't think it should. I've gotten, I've been really fortunate enough with my debut. I think I have like 50 plus ratings on Goodreads, and most of them are positive. But I've had like a DNF or two. I've had people say that the prose wasn't for them, or the story didn't click, or, and that's completely fine, because at the end of the day, like just like one shirt size doesn't fit everybody. One book's not going to fit everybody's itch, things like that. It's, I think people need to just like let go of their egos a little bit when it comes to it. It's okay to be proud of what you've done. I'm very proud of my series. But if like you told me privately, like, Greg, I actually really didn't like it all that much, I'd be like, thanks for having me on, man. I just thanks for, but I think it's probably kind of hard for a lot of people to do that, which is understandable. Yeah, it's a very personal thing. So I get it.
Yeah. Oh, Scott said the career's over after he destroys Stephen King.
No, it's for Stephen King. Yeah, his career's done, dude.
Done. I hate it for him. He's just getting started. He's like an indie guy,
He was in the who knew where his career was gonna go from here, man?
Oh, for real. He's over. All right. You have officially been the longest interview I have ever given.
It's really funny. I think that happened with Chris too. The first time I was on, and I might not have been his longest, but I think we got to like a minute, or not a minute 30, an hour 30, and he was like, "Holy crap, we're at an hour 30." So I think you're also one of my longest interviews. The problem is I can just talk, Rowdy. So
Oh no, trust me, I would much rather have that. That's what I've tried to tell everybody. It's
what if
like
I just
my
sat here
biggest fear. Hey, it's happened. I will not name names, but my biggest fear is me asking you a question and you giving me a 1 sentence answer or giving me that face. And it's like,
what's your
been
favorite
fun.
book? No.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite author? Me.
Me.
I really enjoy what I write. I
Yes.
don't read other people's works.
I've had one interview I did where I went through my first like 8 questions in 20 minutes. And I'm
that's
like,
crazy.
oh, we have got a problem. Because I minimum want to do an hour. I like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been trying to talk for months now. And it just some things haven't worked out. But yeah, whenever it does that, it's like, oh Lord. I love people that talk. That it helps me out too. I ain't gonna lie.
True. That makes sense. Yeah, I like trying to like flip it and ask questions when I can sometimes. I didn't really get the opportunity tonight, but a little bit here and there, right? Just to get, because people watching, they probably want to, they're watching for you as much as they're watching for the author typically. I think. That's what I do when I watch YouTubers. I don't
I don't know.
So
I'm not that great at it, so who knows? All right. Well, let's wrap this up. 2 hours and 10 minutes. You have the record now. So
I tried to push it a little bit longer. Do you notice that? I tried. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry I kept you so long. And I know it's been a long time coming because we have literally been trying to get this together for like 2 or 3 months. So, all right. Well, y'all have a good evening. Get some sleep. And
absolute pleasure.
See y'all later.
You can find all my books on Amazon.